Oh boy. Sports this week are just on a different level of insanity. I hope that all of the chaos I'm about to bring to you and some of the points I'm about to bring up, hopefully everyone understands what I'm about to discuss. Because some of the topics could be not as very well explained due to the time I only have for this episode today. Welcome back. What a weird week it was for sports as a whole. My name is Robbie Basel. I am your host, as for every other week or every other episode of the Robbie Basel Show. And just today, we had somebody from the PGA Championship arrested. Then he played, and then he played well. We had a divorce I didn't know about. Nothing is computing right. I didn't find out about half of this stuff till this morning. So that's not even the first topic we're talking about, because there's something more controversial that needs to be discussed. And we start with the final preview of the 2024 English Premier League season with a twist. Recently, Wolves and a bunch of other Premier League clubs brought together the idea of VAR being scrapped. And these are the notes that I have on the issue. Just let me pull them up real quick. And while I pull my notes, subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all the other things that you guys like to do. But here's what Fabrizio Romano said. This was from 2 days ago, before this article came out. Premier League could soon scrap VAR as clubs are set to hold a vote next month to decide on that, reports tell The Athletic. Wolves started the process to abolish the system. It will be on agenda at June 6th. And rule change would need at least 14 of the 20 members to approve of it. So now you're asking, Robbie, what happened and why is this being scrapped? Well, Wolves and a bunch of other clubs sent a formal complaint and wanted these things. The font's really small, but essentially they wanted VAR removed. There was possible corruption. Like last line, erosion of trust and reputation, while VAR fueling completely nonsensical allegations of corruption. True. I mean, that did happen with Luton earlier in the season. Constant discourse about VAR decisions often overshadowing the match itself. It's funny that Wolves is doing this because we know from a couple of weeks ago that Wolves were robbed of a possible goal because Wolves had a player run in front of the goalkeeper in an offside position, which is offsides, and Gary O'Neill got himself sent off and had some controversial comments. Go back to a couple of weeks ago. I talked about this a lot. And now his club is going after VAR. Now, there's more notes on it, but I'll just get into this now. Do I think VAR should be scrapped? No. I don't think VAR should be removed. There's a lot of benefits that VAR could bring to a game. The problems that the Premier League has with VAR is, one, the people operating it. There's been a lot of problems with Premier League officiating this year, and it even gets worse when you talk about the VAR officials. Like, you would think, let me just bring this out real quick, that sometimes with VAR, you would be like, yeah, we're just going to bring out a yellow card, and we're going to say no, and we'll bring out a red. I can bring this out right. Boom, red, get him off the field. You would think that they would be more useful for determining offsides. What I like about VAR is that they have a chance to review this stuff. But some of it does take out the humanity of the game, which gets into my next point. The law sucks. The law they have about VAR is terrible. The way I think it should go is the usage of VAR should only, because there's some uses where VAR, with like offsides, for example, semi-automated offsides is going to be very interesting, which is why I do not think this is going to be scrapped yet. Keyword on yet, because next year the Premier League is supposedly introducing semi-automated offsides. To make this whole thing easier, you either change the law or you keep it the way it is and just scrap VAR. Because we know of some controversial offside decisions in the Premier League, in the Champions League, as some would say. The one from last week with Bayern or whatever it was, Thomas Tuchel couldn't shut his mouth. And I had a lot of comments about Thomas Tuchel. A coach who I did not like previously because he had a lot of comments about the referee when his tactics were the reason he lost. Now, in the Premier League, even the idea of VAR being scrapped, I think is wrong. It needs, I wouldn't say an overhaul, because I think it's the wrong term, but it needs to be used more correctly. I like that the lines and all that. That's what the semi-automated offsides I think is going to be useful for. I think semi-auto offsides is right. People complain about the consistency of some calls. And one, I can't blame the fans at all, because some referees would call this a penalty. Some people would call that a penalty. Some people would call one of these things a yellow. Some of them would call it a red. Remember, a lot of the calls that referees make are on perspective. Remember that. It's perspective first. What I don't like, for the most, I thought about this last week, and I said, I remember talking about, I think I talked about this on this show, or maybe just talking with friends, about what MLS is doing, and that MLS is introducing referees announcing decisions. I don't like that. I don't. Because then it makes it more controversial. A foul is a foul. Okay. You don't need to explain what the foul was. Because it already looks terrible from Major League Soccer. The philosophy should always be this. Know what you're talking about before you come out and complain. Which kind of goes up against what I just said, and that's fair. But as a referee, I don't think it's exactly right to come out and have to announce every decision. Like, offsides, if you have to announce that, I think that's horrible, because it's kind of self-explanatory. But I think they should change the rule on offsides to make it more easier to... Because remember, offsides is subjective by an official. Remember that. Offsides is subjective. To one referee, it could be offsides. One could be barely onside. It could be an arm's length. I can't really see because I'm sharing a screen. It could be an arm's length of difference. It could be from the elbow length of difference. The margins are so fine. Which is why semi-automated offsides, I think the way they should do it is keep it the way it was, but VAR checks should be with the semi-automated offsides. I think the two things they have to keep... I think VAR should be overhauled to only be used with semi-automated offsides and goal line technology. But there you go. If you want to keep the humanity of the game, you want to keep it the way it should be, I think semi-automated offsides and goal line technology should be in. And the law to be changed to where it's more conclusive. I've really thought about this more when I found out the news on Tuesday. And I thought about the possibility of this happening, because there's people I know who were talking about this. And the fact that they even brought this up is crazy in itself. But like I said, I think it should be semi-automated offsides. Goal line technology has to stay in, which is why I think the only purpose that VAR truly has. But the Premier League was one of the last ones to introduce VAR. We already seen VAR scrapped in a country, in Sweden, as the Swedish people basically revolted against the league, which is sick, by the way, and I love it. But I don't know. It's a very controversial and debatable topic that we'll talk about more on another day when I have more time to talk about it, and when we get more news about it as we go on. But something that's not controversial, well, this is where my next point of controversy comes into play is the Premier League. And let me just bring this up right now. I know Manchester City and a lot of other teams are giving a lot of crap to Arsenal for rooting for Tottenham. When on the flip side, Manchester City fans are rooting for United, a more hated rival, to beat Arsenal. So I don't know where these Manchester City fans are thinking, believing that what they did was right and what Arsenal was wrong, because they did the same action. I don't get it. This is not me coming from an Arsenal fan's perspective, because I know I did not root for Tottenham to beat City. But I know a lot of City fans rooted for United to beat Arsenal. I'm not saying what Arsenal fans did was right. I'm not saying what City fans did was right. Because it's, once again, subjective. The dumb thing is, it's a double, some people take it as a double standard, which doesn't make any sense. Because City did the same action, but Arsenal's getting more hate for it, because some people think Spurs is a bigger rival with Arsenal than United is. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's stupid that we're even having this conversation, because I knew City was winning for this game. That's why I didn't care about it at all. Erling Haaland tapping, a major save by Stefan Ortega, and a Haaland penalty won the match 2-0. There you go. I knew this was going to happen. I think everyone in their right mind knew this was going to happen. But now it just makes the last day more and more interesting. And I'm also not streaming the final day, which is unfortunate, but which would have been really cool. I think streaming the last day would have been awesome. But I am doing something on Sunday, so we are not streaming for the final day, because we would have started late to begin with. And I don't like starting things late. So, City beat Spurs 2-0. The Citizens will have now to win to guarantee it against West Ham. We'll talk about that game in a moment. But Spurs, they had opportunities. Son missed a 1v1 against Stefan Ortega. Speaking of Stefan Ortega, he will be the starting goalkeeper for the remainder of the season for City, which opens the door for United to actually win a trophy. But United themselves, my God, they're a mess. I'll talk more about Ten Hag next week, because we will be doing the Premier League recap next week with Dylan. Dylan is coming back. D's in the chat for... Actually, no, don't type that. Yeah, Dylan comes back for his season finale. We will be breaking down the Premier League table as it stood. Wow. I just got breaking news that a Belgian club just filed for bankruptcy. So, RIP to KV Oostende. Because of the debt they have at the club, which is terrible. But back to this. Yeah, City deserved the win. Ortega will be starting for the rest of the season after Ederson got injured. City win 2-0, which sets up this Premier League table. Also, Chelsea beat Brighton, no shocker, and United almost had a scare at the end against Newcastle. But United went 3-1 up. A good goal by Lewis. I think it was Lewis Hall. Or Lewis, I don't know. Late goal for Newcastle. Tried to get them back in it, but it was not enough. Setting up this table entering the last day, which is insanity. So, Aston Villa have clinched a Champions League place. Did not expect to say that in the beginning of the season. Tottenham decided to not play soccer or football for the last 5 games. They've won 1 of 5 to not get a Champions League spot. Listen, it's funny enough that even if we don't win the title, at least Tottenham are in the freaking Europa League. Because they deserve it. You go out and you bottle that bad, you deserve Europa. I'm sorry. I had Aston Villa in 8th, and Dylan also had Aston Villa in 8th. And they're in 4th, because that makes sense. Chelsea need Tottenham to lose to Sheffield and to beat Bournemouth to steal the Europa League spot. Newcastle, who have not looked good, The highest that Newcastle can finish is 6th. They will need to beat Brentford and Chelsea to lose to Bournemouth to steal 6th. United will need. I don't even think they can. I think the highest they can finish is 7th because of goal difference. Yeah, United will need to beat Brighton and for Newcastle to not win to go to Europe. That's insane. Relegation, we already know it's over, even though this point difference is really close. Burnley finishes it off with Nottingham Forest. If Burnley finish 18th, that would be hilarious. If Burnley, for how bad they were, finishing above Luton would be very fitting for them. Because, listen, I don't think Burnley or Luton were as bad as people make them out to be. The 1-goal losses is what really costed them. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at the bottom 4, the 3 relegated teams that me and Dylan both had are in the bottom 4. That's not bad, chat. Understand that. But yeah, this is all done. The only controversy will, of course, be the Premier League champions will be decided on the last day. We'll talk about how you can watch those games. And 1 or 2 European spots will be decided in the midfield. Well, the midfield-ish on the last day. And speaking of the last day, welcome to the last day. The games you will need to watch, all at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll start off at the bottom. Of course, you have Man City against West Ham United. That is on NBC. So if you want to watch Man City against West Ham at the Etihad, it is on NBC. Other big games to watch for. Manchester United and Bournemouth on CNBC. So CNBC actually gets a game for the first time in a very long time. Newcastle Brentford could be big for Newcastle. Of course, Brentford trying to finish off the season strong. Liverpool and Wolves have nothing to play for. This game has nothing to play for. This could, depending on results, Chelsea against Bournemouth. Chelsea needing a very valuable result against Bournemouth to get a solid European place in the Europa Conference League. You have where Spurs are down here. They're at Bramall Lane for the final game for Sheffield United as a Premier League club this season. And of course, you got the game at Kenilworth Road, Luton against Fulham, also on Peacock. The final game for Luton in the Premier League in their first ever season in the Premier League. And then you get to the top. Also, we have Burnley and Nottingham Forest, but this is the game I think a lot of people will be watching. That is Arsenal against Everton. It is on Sunday, just 2 days away. The intrigue that this game can have, because remember, the first time these two played, Arsenal struggled. Arsenal only won 1-0 at Goodison Park. And I think you will see something very similar to that game. Arsenal also will not be debuting the new kits, which are like the only difference. Instead of gold on the side, it's blue. I actually kind of like that because why not? The blue for Arsenal is pretty cool. But what a result this could be for Everton as well. If you really think about it, Everton being the one to stop Arsenal from having a chance to win the league is very fitting. Because Everton, a team that a lot of people have counted out from the start, going out there and finishing off the season really strong would be really cool for them. But for Arsenal, must win. They're going to go full on with the attack. I'm interested to see what the starting 11 looks like. Could this be, this is a thought, could this be the last game for Gabriel Martinelli for Arsenal? Can this be a statement by Arsenal? Because they're possibly going to have to go out and win by multiple goals, because why not? Everyone's eyes, will, of course, will be on City. And everyone else's eyes will probably be on Arsenal or Luton, because we have to say goodbye to Luton. GG's to Luton, by the way. They played a good season. But the 1 goals, I talked about it on Tuesday. The 1 goals really haunted them. But back to here, the big players are going to need to step up for Arsenal to get an early lead, because you do not want to settle this late. You really can't. Because that's when the nerves start to settle in. We haven't had a memorable race like this till the very end in a very long time. So how about end one of the best and controversial seasons of the Premier League on the last day? I love it. It's going to be awesome. It will be very emotional for some. And hopefully I will come out with my Arsenal pride. And I almost hit the stop recording button. Hopefully, Arsenal will come out and grab a result. Score predictions: I think Arsenal win 2-1. I think this is going to be way closer than people think it's going to be. I think it should be very similar to the first round between the two. But you got to expect Everton to at least make it a good fight. I'm going to say 2-1 here. I'm going to say Newcastle draw Brentford. Playing at the community stadium has been tough for some. I think Newcastle's terrible road record continues. I'm going to say that's a draw. I have Brighton drawing Manchester United in this one. I have Burnley beating Nottingham Forest at Turf Moor. Could it be the last game for Vincent Kompany? I have Chelsea beating Bournemouth 3-0. I have Palace drawing Villa. Crystal Palace have had a sneaky good end to this season. They've looked great, and they have a lot of confidence. Unfortunately, they might be selling players like Eze and Elise in the summer, but we have no idea. Speaking of one of them, Elise did not make the Euros team. We'll talk about the Euros in a couple of weeks. I have Liverpool and Wolves going to the way of Liverpool. I have it as a 2-0. I have Luton drawing Fulham 1-1. I have City, unfortunately, beating West Ham. I have them scoring a late goal. 1-0 City. I think West Ham are going to play defensive. They're going to be the ones that try and cause some problems. I think so, at least. Just so they can get their former captain a trophy, which would be really cool. But I think Man City will win this game. And then I have Sheffield losing to Spurs 2-1. I think Sheffield will do their tradition of scoring first and then conceding multiple goals, securing them the worst defensive record in Premier League history. Should be fun. To the PGA Championship next. And, chat, I was kicking myself on yesterday. Because look who's leading, or in second. Well, now third, because Colin Morikawa leads. Mark Hubbard, out of nowhere, coming up in second. Look who's in third. I'm kicking myself. Because I almost picked him again. But I think when I don't pick him, he does good. It's annoying. Xander Schauffele's in third. We'll talk about you in a minute. Harris English, a good day. He's in fifth, along with Thomas Dietrich, Tom Kim, Aaron Ryan, Eckroat. Finau's here. Big day yesterday for Sahith Theegala. One of the guys I like this week. But if you scroll down more, I actually scrolled past him. Minwoo Lee, a guy I've liked in majors in the past. He shot 5 under 66 today. Big round from him. Rory McIlroy, 5 under par. Bob McIntyre, 5 under par. The Europeans are putting on a show. Brooks Koepka, big finish from him yesterday. Gets him to 4 under par. Bryson, great finish yesterday other than the last hole. He's at 3 under with Hovland. Cam Smith, Homa. A lot of good scoring yesterday. It's actually insane the scoring that happened yesterday. If you go all the way down here, unfortunately, I don't know if they've started yet. I don't. You see our two other protagonists, Taylor Pendrith and Ludwig Aberg, both at +1. So not the greatest picks for me. The big surprise, if I can control this, is not Morikawa because he's had good major championship experience in the past. The big surprise that he was even able to play today is Scottie Scheffler. Because if you remember, Scottie Scheffler this morning was arrested at 5 in the morning. I'm just fixing some settings so that you don't hear any video. He was arrested at 5 a.m., booked, released, played the round, and he's playing right now live at the time of recording at 2:47 in the afternoon. He could possibly get himself to double-digit under par and not finish the tournament, if you really think about it. I'm surprised that the PJ didn't disqualify him for getting arrested. It's insane. The fact that I'm even talking about this is nuts. But Scottie, man, what a weird situation. I still haven't fully grasped the whole thing yet. Because then again, how could you? This is nuts. An insane turn of events to where Scottie Scheffler gets booked on 4 charges, comes out here an hour later, after posting or getting out, or posting bail. I don't even know what he did, honestly. Comes out and shoots so far what could be a 67 or a 66. Ridiculous. He's not human, chat. He's not. Because this type of stuff is not real. This was even more crazy. Xander Schauffele yesterday, in round number 1. I talked about it with, first off, shout out to the Sports Come First podcast. Hopefully that episode comes out soon with me and Kyle Levinson. Great dude. We talked about a lot of various stuff this week. And we saw, hold on, Xander Schauffele perform well in a first round again. Unreal. Some of this stuff is just unreal to me. 9 birdies, 0 bogeys. He performed like the opening round of the Wells Fargo last week. The issue is going to be if he can hold on and not perform like the end of the Wells Fargo from last week. But a very interesting PGA Championship field so far. Some players, of course, to watch out for. Some storylines, at least. Will Scotty finish the tournament? I hate this. I hate this narrative. Will Scotty actually finish the tournament? Will Colin Morikawa continue to play well? He's at 7 under today, including 5 straight birdies. That's ridiculous. He's a former PGA champion in 2020. He won that one. Can Xander actually finish a tournament strong for the first time in a while? The sleepers. You start off with a guy like Tony Finau who shot 6 under. Can he keep it rolling? Sahith Theegala. Can all of these guys continue to score? Especially with Rory, because Rory, he even make it more controversial. Rory McIlroy, 2 days before the tournament, had news of him filing for divorce, which is shocking to me. He proceeds to shoot 66, which, fair play, because he didn't let the emotions get the most of him. But what a weird week of golf this is. I'm not going to dive into the divorce stuff because I think it gets ethically wrong. But one, the scoring has been ridiculous. I like the majors. Okay, this is going to sound really bad. I liked it somewhat with like remember the U.S. Opens from like the 2010s where they were all like impossible. I liked it when it was like that, not scoring like this, because it makes it feel like a regular tournament, not a major. I know that's gonna be an unpopular opinion because some people like the scoring. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it because I liked it when the majors were really difficult golf courses with not wide fairways, terrible rough, and it was interesting. Like, what was it, Shinnecock when the winner was like 2 under? That's a U.S. Open. That's completely different. But like this should be like the winner should be 7, 8 under, like PGA when I went in Bethpage. Now it looks like it's getting way, way easier. But it also shows, on the flip side of that, how good these guys actually are. Because some of the guys got asked what a scratch golfer would shoot here, and it's like in the 90s. So really, with my terrible handicap, I would shoot like 115, which makes sense. But man, such high scoring. I don't know. I mean, it's more appealing visually, but I don't know. I kind of like the old days a little bit. I'm a little bit old school with that. But the PGA, it's Morikawa leading at 2:52 p.m. Eastern time at 12 under par. We will show you talk about it more. Recap the full thing at the start of next week. Also, I made a mistake on Tuesday. I was going to preview the French Open. I thought I forgot about that. The French Open. Let me just tell you when I thought the French Open started next week. It doesn't. No, it does. I'm so confused. Is the draw out? No. I guess qualifying's next week, but yeah, so next week is qualifiers, and the actual thing starts the 27th. So I'll preview the draw on next Friday's episode we'll preview the draw because the draw should be out. I thought it was next week because I said March 20th. I'm like, oh yeah, it's totally starting next week. It's not. This week was the Italian Open. We're not talking about the Italian Open. Speaking of Italians, Formula One is in Italy, and I'm actually not supposed to load that screen. Oh, that's great. That is great. This week we are in Emilia-Romagna, Italy. And for the first time since 2022, welcome to Imola. For the Formula, let's try it, chat. Formula 1 MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italia e dell'Emilia Romagna. I do not remember the years in Italy. I know it's 24, 20, whatever the hell it is. Whatever. I'm not good with numbers. Italian, but FP1 and FP2 have gone more or less the same, with the upgraded Ferrari leading both charts. Now there are a lot of upgrades, and let's just talk about it now. It is the first week in multiple years where the previous winner was a McLaren racing driver. And how did Lando respond? Lando responded, let me find him, by driving 12th. Yes. No, in all seriousness, this is insanity. I'm still trying to comprehend it all. It would be very fitting for Oscar to get his first win right after this, but the big drivers, teams I'm watching out for, of course, is the upgraded Ferrari. That's the big thing we're watching out for this week, is the upgraded Ferrari car. Red Bull, not looking that quick in FP2, I will say that. FP1, they were 4th and 5th with Perez in front. FP2, they were 7th and 8th. Now, free practices usually don't mean a lot, but in this situation, it kind of does. Because it's kind of showing how bad it could be. The surprise for me is the Mercedes cars. Because I believe the last time we raced here, one of the Mercedes, I think both Mercedes got eliminated early in qualifying. Yuki Tsunoda, P3. Okay. And of course, Haas is inevitable at this point. I guess Haas saw me talk a lot of crap about them, and Haas is actually looking decent now, other than Magnussen. And of course, it isn't a free practice day when Logan Sargent isn't last. So, race predictions. I have my qualifying predictions. I'm going to go Leclerc, then Max, then Carlos is my top 3. With my race prediction being Max, then Carlos, then Charles, and then Perez. That's my top. It's gonna be mostly, I think, this week dominated by the Ferraris and Red Bulls. Then I would say P5, Piastri, 6th Lando, and then I think the Mercs will follow, and so on and so forth. I don't have a lot of hope for some of these teams, but what I know is inevitable is a Nico Hulkenberg point, so I'm expecting Haas to score a point this week. But listen, I have no freaking idea how that's going to go. Should be fun, though. Formula 1, chaos. To a topic we really didn't get to talk about last time, preview. The NFL schedule release. We're going to talk about quickly about what we can watch out for off the jump as I try to get this ad out of the way because ads suck. Let's take a look at the NFL Week 1 schedule, and we'll talk about some of the games now. This is the schedule for Week 1. We will open up the season. Why isn't this not loading? Oh my god, it froze. Can y'all still hear me, chat? It crashed, and now it's coming back. We're still here, I think. I think we're still here. Welcome to... We're not done yet, chat. We're not done yet. Even though the screen went black for me. Welcome to the 2024-25 NFL... Oh, come on.
who has the toughest schedule in 20?
Yeah, I don't really buy into the strength of schedule. So many
Ravens
things have
Chiefs
changed.
on
I'm
Thursday
picking a
Night
team
Football.
not even on that
We'll
entire
talk
board.
about this
It's
in a
the
minute because I have
Detroit
a problem
Lions.
with
So
this.
what I
Not
look
because it's
at
in
is
Brazil,
your
but there's a
division
reason.
schedule first of all.
And then
So
the
to me, the
Sunday
hardest
games at 1
schedule has
o'clock.
to be a
The
team
featured
from
game.
the AFC North or the NFC North, which I believe are
I
the
think
two
this
best
will
divisions. It's
Jacksonville,
crazy.
Miami,
The
two
NFC
teams
North
that have a
can now
little
be
bit of
put
a
in
new
that
look, and of
category.
course
It's
the
4
Giants are
tough
playing
games now.
Minnesota, the
7
battle of
playoff
teams
teams
that
from a
have
year
or
ago.
could
Then I
have
go
had
out of
JJ
division. They
McCarthy
got to play
off
the
the
NFC
rip.
West in the
The
NFC
Giants are
out of
going to
division. I think that's
possibly
very
question
difficult.
themselves
Then I
why they
look
didn't draft
at
JJ
the
McCarthy
first place
or
schedule.
prove
What's
it why they
different than the
drafted
rest
Malik
of your teams?
Neighbors.
The
I think
Lions,
it
for
will be the
instance, have to
latter
play the
option, but I
Cowboys.
don't have
That's
any
a tough
idea.
one. And then that
On
17th
later
game, which
session,
is
you'll have
really
Tom Brady's
like an X
broadcasting
factor
debut
when looking at the schedule.
with the Browns
What's
and
their
the Cowboys,
17th game? Just a
because that
fun
makes
game
sense.
the NFL wants to throw the Buffalo Bills.
And then
Always
Sunday Night Football
consistently
is
good.
this
I think it's a
game
tough
with the Rams
schedule
and the
for them.
Lions.
And a lot of
Makes
time,
sense.
a lot of pressure on your team.
I have so many problems with this. First off, the Jets have 6 primetime games, chat. 6. 6. 6. Do they deserve 6? No. How do they have less than the world champion? The Chiefs have 5. The Patriots have 0. I think 0, which I think they wouldn't mind that, actually. But 6? I don't like this. As a fan of a team, 6 primetime games sucks. Especially when your home opener is on a Thursday. Some of the winners, the total losers of the schedule is the Steelers. Have you seen the end of their schedule? 6 divisional opponents. I know the Eagles are mixed in there, and I think maybe the Niners or someone else that's good is mixed in there too. To end a season. Outrageous. Especially the narrative that Pittsburgh usually ends the seasons really strong. It's a weird narrative. It's a very odd narrative. But that's the first game. As a Jet fan, I talked about it on Wednesday. I'm kind of glad this is the first game. Because we can get out of the way early. Because would you rather play the Niners week 1? Or maybe week 5, 9, 13, last week? I'd rather face them week 1. Because we don't know how they're going to look. They've lost Chase Young. They've lost other pieces. But they've added more weapons on offense, but the Jets have changed pieces as well. They traded for Mike Williams. They traded John Franklin Myers for cap space. Maybe we'll see some of the new players like Will McDonald actually have a chance to come off the edge. It's a weird thought. We'll see Hassan Reddick make his Jets debut on the road. And we'll see Aaron Rodgers return to face Nick Bosa. I'm not terrified of that idea at all. But we will see the new Jets offensive line, so it's like you kind of get the winners of both. The international games are interesting. The issue I have with them was we go load ourselves back to the main schedule here. Is that there's games on Peacock, there's games on Netflix, there's games on Amazon, there's games on this, that, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what noise that was. It's annoying. I think the NFL trying to do this is a weird direction. Now, I like that this is in Brazil. I don't like it's week 1. Why week 1? Why? It's so unnecessary. This should have been a Sunday night game in November. But no. We wanted to do this off the jump on a Friday. Yes. No, that's wrong. Because in reality, you didn't need to do this. You also didn't need to put it on Peacock because they're trying to get these streaming companies to make more money and line their pockets up even more. Can't really see what I'm trying to do, but whatever. But the other overseas games. Let me actually stop sharing my screen, and let me try and pull up the international games. Are you ready for these terrible games? Because I certainly am. We will have, ladies and gentlemen, let's load this baby up. I do have a link that I can use for this, which is great news. Let's take a look. So we have Eagles, Packers. We talked about it. We have Jags, Bears, Jets, Vikings, Patriots, Jags, because the Jags play 2 games, and Giants, Panthers. The losers is Germany itself, because why did they give them such a terrible game? What did Germany do to deserve this? What did they do? Giants, Panthers? Nothing against the Giants or the Panthers, but you couldn't have picked a better game, a little bit of a better game? That's an L. Pats, Jags, I think is a weird pick as well, because it's, I mean, I get it, why, but I think it's kind of a weird pick. This is the best game. It's Jaguars and the Bears. And let me explain to you why. The Jags and the Bears is the best game because it's the most balanced game of the 4 or 5 international games. Besides Eagles-Packers, the games afterwards, the best one left is Jags-Bears. You will see Caleb Williams play a solid Jacksonville Jaguars defense. You will, like in the first game, there's a complete different level of quarterback play. There's also different, but we'll see Justin Jefferson versus Sauce Gardner. That's the biggest point to look at. Patriots, Jags, we'll see Drake May against Trevor Lawrence. I don't think people want to see that. I think people want to see T-Law against Caleb. The battle of the former number 1 overall picks. 2 of the better, some claim, the biggest prodigies coming out of college we've ever seen. For how hyped these dudes were. You'll see Keenan Allen going up against the Jaguars secondary. The new look Jags featuring guys like Brian Thomas. They lost Calvin, really. They replaced him with Brian Thomas. How will he look? They still have Christian Kirk. They still have all these weapons. ETN's back for Jacksonville. The narratives here are better than, the Jets possibly being destroyed with injuries going up against the Vikings defensive line. Because we know the receivers from the Jets are going to torch the Vikings secondary. The Patriots don't have a defense. They're going to get torched by the Jaguars receivers anyway. In the bottom game, there's going to be no offense. This is the game that has the most balance, I think. And I think that's why it'll be the best. I would say Week 6, Jags-Bears is the best game. Also funny that they're playing at the most hated stadium that I know of, in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Just as a note. 2 topics left. Let's go over the playoffs. Yay, playoffs. And we will start with last night, because some of this stuff is getting out of hand. I'm serious. The bottom of this bracket is wild. We'll start with the winners of last night. And I talked a lot of crap about the Rangers on Tuesday, and I talked a lot of crap about the Rangers on Wednesday. Oh, what a night for the New York Rangers. Oh, what a night. You know how the song goes. Sing the song while I talk about this game. The Rangers got outplayed for 2 periods, but decided to play some real hockey in the third. And, on top of it all, we'll talk about... I won't find it. Whatever. The big day for Chris Kreider, Vinny Trocheck, Goodrow, Panarin. The quality finally showed up at a third period for New York. I talked about it on Tuesday. That was the problem from Game 5. And I had confidence that Carolina 3-1 up in Game 6 will seal the deal. But conceding 4 goals in 9.5 minutes, or 11 or whatever it was. That's insanity. Freddie Anderson has not allowed that many goals in this game, let alone a period in the entire playoffs. But he goes out and concedes 4 in the third period to 3 in an empty netter to lose to the Rangers 5-3. And the Rangers, going up against all of my logic, advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. I had the Rangers not even going this far. But they've proved me wrong. There have been slip-ups, particularly in the defense. They've looked really bad. I know a lot of Ranger fans will be rooting for Boston tonight. We'll talk about that game in a minute. But oh, what a night. The Rangers, Chris Kreider with an elite third period, scoring all 3 goals before the empty netter later on to win it. for the Rangers. Listen, all right, like I said, I thought a lot of bad things about the Rangers. They proved me wrong last night, for the most part, and went out and won. Carolina, we'll talk about them now. What a mess. What a collapse. Like, come on. They wanted it for 2 periods. But they really collapsed that bad. I mean, to be fair, it's Carolina against the Rangers. I don't know what you were expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. But then we have this game. Edmonton, Vancouver. They know how to settle things late. An extremely late goal to end Game 5 has put the Canucks up 3-2. And will have a chance on Saturday night to end the series in Edmonton. The chaos is awesome because I was not expecting this at all. I was expecting Edmonton. Well, I mean, I was kind of expecting because the home teams have pretty much won all the games. But I talked about it with Kyle on Wednesday. Home ice is kind of irrelevant, and the Rangers proved it yesterday. For one, Edmonton should have won yesterday because they had more quality chances. And Vancouver couldn't stay out of the box. But when Vancouver had the fewer opportunities, they capitalized. And they went out and scored an extremely late goal with about 40 seconds left to win it. For Vancouver, they are now 3-2 up. Insanity is commencing. Up top, we have our games tonight. Starting us off, we'll have, this is not the first game, but we'll talk about it first, in Dallas, taking on the Avalanche in Game 6. What a crazy Game 5 that was on Wednesday. I was not expecting to be here saying the Avs forced Game 6, because the Avs deserved to win Game 5. They were the better team throughout that game. Cale Makar, great game. The high-end talent of Colorado really showing off on the road against the Dallas Stars. And they'll have a chance to show off again at home to try and force Game 7. And I think they do it. The way that Colorado has had playoff experience, I think Dallas eventually wins it on Sunday night. But Colorado, they know how to take it to somebody. We saw them with adversity earlier in the season. They struggled at brief points against Winnipeg, but now have a chance to extend the series, do what the Hurricanes couldn't, and send us to an improbable Game 7 after Dallas was at least 3-1 up. Now it's 3-2. Puck is in the territory of Dallas to go out there and make some noise, or Colorado to extend it to Game 7. I think Colorado wins this game 4-2. I think it's going to be close throughout, but 4-2 is my final score. Which leads us, and I almost left the studio again. I keep doing that. I don't know why. To Florida, Boston. Every Ranger fan will be cheering for Boston. I have Boston advance to the Cup final. Remember that. I think Boston wins tonight. Boston, very gutsy win on Tuesday. What a game against Florida. Granted, low scoring. Goes against every other game. The last 2 games have been perfection. It's what you expect in playoff hockey. Not a 6-1 blowout. 3-2 and 2-1. Perfect. I think Boston takes the rubber match of the 1-goal games and sends us to Game 7. Double Game 7 on Sunday night? Is this real? Oh, yeah, it's real. I think it's going to happen. I think Boston wins tonight. Florida having a little bit of nerves. Remember, guys, who else was 3-1 up recently? Boston won the first game. Florida won 3 in a row. Boston needs to come out and win a couple of games to keep it going. I think they get it tonight. I think they win this game 3-1 over Florida. Listen, the series has been great. But Florida needs guys like Matt Tkachuk, Carter Verhaeghe and company to really step up. And I don't think they do it on the road, but I think they will do it in Sunrise. We'll talk about that. Actually, we'll talk about it now because I think Florida wins Game 7. And I think the other series, Dallas wins it in Game 7. And the other series, let me just go back to the other series real quick. I don't know when that series ends. Game 7 would be... Monday. So also, and I think this series, I think Edmonton wins back-to-back and wins the Battle of Canada. So my prediction from these games would be Dallas advancing in 7, Edmonton advancing in 7, Florida in 7, and of course the Rangers already winning in 6. So the series would be Dallas, Edmonton, and Rangers in Boston. Sorry, and Rangers in Florida. Even though I did pick Boston, I would say Florida would probably make it out. They're the better team. They're going to be at home. Boston could not capitalize in a couple of key games, and I don't think they're going to make it out. But I think it's possible Boston makes it out, but I don't know if they do. And I think Edmonton coming from behind against Vancouver would really suck for Vancouver because they've had a really under the radar and really strong season for them. Finally, NBA playoffs continue as well. We have Game 6 from Indiana tonight with the Indiana Pacers taking on the New York Knicks. Game 5, we talked about it already. It was chaos. Actually, did we talk about Game 5? Game 5 was I'll say it like this. It was a shit show for Indiana. Knicks won, pretty much self-explanatory. Knicks forced Game 6. I think this series will go to Game 7, another Sunday game. This weekend in sports could be some of the weirdest things ever. You could have, Saturday feature things like the Preakness. There's boxing on Saturday. Saturday it was a little bit underwhelming. Sunday could have open it up with the final day of the Premier League. Then Knicks Pacers and 2 other hockey Game 7s on the same day. Featuring Colorado and Dallas, and I believe Florida and Boston, if it gets to that point. That's ridiculous. I think the home trend continues tonight for Indiana. So, I need to stretch out my back a little bit. A little bit of soreness for me, but I think Indiana wins tonight. I think the Knicks win this in 7. Listen, the home trend has to continue, I think, in this series. The road teams haven't looked that good since Game 3 in the last 2 blowouts. I think this game will be close, but I think Indiana wins it. And then the Knicks win in Game 7. So I'd say the Knicks win in 7, would advance to play Boston, who predictably beat the Cavs. So 1 versus 2 there. We know of 1 Game 7. Could we see more Game 7s? This series will be determined on Saturday night. For if Oklahoma City wants to survive. OKC went out and got beaten up by the Dallas Mavericks by 12 points. In Game 5, Dallas winning 104-92. Good game, back and forth, but ultimately Dallas pulled away late. They will then face off in Game 6, where I think Dallas... OKC bottled it because they had to win at home to have a chance. And I said Dallas is going to win Game 6 with Kyle. I think Dallas will win Game 6 in advance. Kind of sucks to see that, how OKC were so good you might fall apart, but they're a team to watch out, of course, in the future. And then this Game 7. What a reverse pivot of Game 6. Game 7. Already more chaos. Bro, Sunday night is going to be insane. How many Game 7s there could be. Could be the greatest weekend of sports this month, this part of the year. Could be the greatest night. 4 Game 7s. The greatest Premier League season in recent memory. Since the Aguero goal. Arguably, since the Aguero goal. Over a decade ago. Could be that chaotic. I have Nuggets winning Game 7. I think they're going to bounce back. Listen, the Nuggets got blown out in Game 2. 26. They responded well. The Wolves got a little bit blown out. They lost by 15. 45-point win is kind of ridiculous, but it isn't. That game was in Minnesota. No one played well for the Nuggets. I have Nuggets winning Game 7. They're too good to be eliminated here. So that would mean my new prediction would be, my new expectation would be Mavs Nuggets, and I would be breaking down that series along with Celtics Knicks, and I'll be breaking all of that down for you on Tuesday. And also on that final day, we would have the final round of the PGA Championship. We will break down all of the chaos, possibly on Tuesday, but I don't know yet, because we will see what will go on with the Premier League season recap and when that episode will come out. We'll have to wait and see. What a weekend. Enjoy it. I know I will. I hope you guys do as well. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long for now. See you guys on Tuesday. Goodbye, everyone.